The story begins at Choyol Sprout Kindergarten, a modern building under a bright, sunny sky. In a warm memory, a green-haired girl happily greets a pinkish-haired boy, welcoming him home. A flashback shows a light-haired teacher reading to an enthralled group of children about the appearance of a hero. A happy, dark-haired girl with a ponytail jumps onto the startled teacher's back, affectionately calling out to her. The scene contrasts the laughing teacher and children with Oh Se-young, who stands apart, feeling completely alone and isolated. A thought bubble reveals he's enjoying his isolation at the kindergarten, while another questions why he's even there. A man with glasses holds a small, black-haired girl who gives him an affectionate kiss on the cheek. The man with glasses suggests a short-term teaching job at a kindergarten, pitching it as a temporary part-time position. The man with glasses insists Oh Se-young got along well with the kids before, remembering a time they happily played with him. After telling Oh Se-young to avoid pointless things, the man with glasses explains the real reason for his suggestion, as Oh Se-young shakes his head. The man's final pitch is that the pay is excellent, instantly convincing Oh Se-young, who is now in a bear apron, ready to be introduced. A pair of hands conjures a swirling ball of bright, magical fire. A small, dark-haired child sits peacefully atop a massive plant stalk that has grown up to the classroom window. The magical fire hovers near the base of the enormous plant stalk. Several children wave cheerfully from the plant, illustrating the reality of a superpower kindergarten. Narration explains that while superpower users were once ostracized, their abilities are now accepted as unique traits. This is Choyol Sprout Kindergarten, a place composed entirely of teachers and children who are all superpower users. Oh Se-young objects, looking stressed as he points out that he doesn't have any superpowers. Three children, a dark-haired girl, a boy with glasses, and a hooded boy, stare up at him expectantly. Oh Se-young looks down, utterly confused by the situation. BWAN, the dark-haired girl with the ponytail, suddenly glares with fierce determination. She clings to another teacher, screaming that that person is here and is going to kill the teacher. As the other children panic and run, the little girl leaps into the air, causing a commotion around the confused Oh Se-young. A girl admonishes the other kids for not recognizing him, while Oh Se-young sweats, wondering if he's met her before. She identifies him as Landuk's assistant, but Oh Se-young is even more confused, asking who that really is. A group of children, including a green-haired girl, excitedly beg him to perform Landuk's line. While Oh Se-young asks what that even is, the light-haired teacher beside him stifles a laugh. Looking completely dead inside, Oh Se-young woodenly recites Landuk's catchphrase about soaring and quacking. The children and the light-haired teacher stare in stunned silence, completely unimpressed by his performance. The light-haired teacher claps sarcastically, praising Landuk before bluntly telling him he has no talent. The teacher asks where he was during the exciting Sky Bear conversation, and he wonders how he was supposed to know the animation. The children decide to play the Sky Bear hero game, and Muna declares herself the hero, much to another girl's annoyance. Oh Se-young quietly asks the teacher how a bear can possibly be a hero. He continues, asking if bears don't just tear people apart, as Muna demonstrates with a savage tearing motion. Muna spots her target and triumphantly yells, "Found you, villain," startling the two pink-haired children. In a hero versus villain showdown, Muna stares down Oh Se-young. As Oh Se-young asks what's happening, the teacher offers to play with Muna, while other kids wonder if he's the villain. Muna rejects the idea, stating her mom told her not to bully weak people, clearly referring to Oh Se-young. A shocked Oh Se-young asks if he looks weak, but the teacher quips that it's his pride that looks strong. Oh Se-young resolves that despite his poor history with kids, he can surely handle a physical game with them. A child with purple hair lunges forward, launching a powerful attack. Whack Muna lands a direct hit on the unprepared Oh Se-young. She lands gracefully, ready for her next move. Muna strikes a heroic pose, accusing the villainous Oh Se-young of fearlessly attacking their kindergarten. She grabs a large pink ball, announcing that Sky Bear can use it. She bounces the ball with blinding speed as a special attack, leaving Oh Se-young utterly dumbfounded. The ball zips past his ear as Muna leaps high into the air for an aerial assault. As she prepares for Sky Bear's finishing move, a young boy with light brown hair watches, in absolute terror. Thud. Oh Se-young lies defeated on the floor, admitting, I lost. As Muna stands over him, He recalls his question about bears tearing people apart, a ghostly image of Sky Bear doing just that. Utterly beaten, he questions how a 7-year-old can be so powerful, feeling his 27 years were lived for nothing. Muna looks down at him with a blank, innocent expression. Bong. Hiccup. She suddenly gets a case of the hiccups, her cheeks puffed, and cute bear ears appearing on her head. Oh Seong stares up from the floor, completely bewildered by her sudden transformation. With a fierce roar looming behind her, Muna tearfully declares that she becomes stronger than a bear. Oh Seong sits up, complaining that he's the one who suffered, not her, as she yawns dramatically. Wang, his indifference triggers a fresh wave of loud, dramatic crying from Muna. She rubs her eyes furiously, sobbing in a wave of blue-tinted misery. Annoyed, Oh Seong looks away, clearly bothered by her continued crying. Her crying abruptly stops as she looks up at him with a determined, buck-toothed expression. A silver-haired boy watches with the amazed pink-haired children, noting that that person really is something else. The silver-haired boy suddenly leaps onto Oh Seong, pummeling him while yelling that his acting is terrible. Reacting to the attack, Muna lets out another huge, tear-filled cry. A bruised and blurry Oh Seong can only manage a confused, "Eh?" The pink-haired children gasp in unison, their mouths wide open in complete shock. The other children gather around a flustered Muna, praising how cool she was for making the teacher fly with just a scream. Sniff. Amidst declarations that she should play Sky Bear, Muna proudly looks up, enjoying the attention. She throws her arms up happily, agreeing that she is indeed the right choice for the role. A battered Oh Seong smiles, amused by the realization that Sky Bear really does tear people apart. Muna cheerfully runs up to him, asking if he had fun. The light-haired teacher announces nap time, then stops, noticing Muna and calling out her name in surprise. Oh Seong questions Muna about her power, asking what stronger than a bear means, and if she can use it so freely. Muna taps her chin thoughtfully before cheekily asking if he just didn't get it. She leans in close, admitting she doesn't actually like using her ability, while he thinks, so what? He flinches in surprise at her sudden proximity. Muna proudly informs a confused Oh Seong that the term superpower is outdated and they call it something else now. She leaps into the air with a triumphant cheer. A blushing Oh Seong awkwardly thanks her for the lesson. On the verge of tears again, she asks why he doesn't want to, prompting him to frantically deny it. A flashback shows Oh Seong in his drab studio, having escaped a suffocating home only to end up in another. He wryly muses about his money disappearing after paying the monthly rent for his small apartment. The memory shifts to his shock upon seeing the high pay offered for the kindergarten job. Back in the principal's office, a flustered Oh Seong asks if the morning went okay, while the principal apologizes for a delay. The principal explains the kindergarten's program is designed to help superpowered children integrate into regular society. The imposing principal, with intense red eyes and facial tattoos, asks if there are any other questions. Oh Seong smirks and says no, but internally admits that the principal is terrifying. Leaving the office, he realizes this is the perfect opportunity to earn good money just by playing with kids. He happily considers that the large sum of money will allow him to comfortably prepare for his job hunt. Beaming, he concludes he only has to endure this for 3 months. He finds Muna waiting in the hall and asks why she's still here. She explains her mom is running late. She eagerly asks to play with him while she waits, catching him completely off guard. A flashback shows Muna crying as the words superpower appear. Another quick flash shows his own bruised and battered face from their earlier playtime. He warily considers her offer, wondering if he's going to physically die this time. A sudden jolt of realization strikes him as a new thought begins to form. With a flash of insight, he concludes that if he can just handle their superpowers, there won't be any problems at all. A little girl in a yellow sweater cheers joyfully as a black-haired man behind her recoils in shock. The black-haired man plans to play with the girl, thinking it's a simple way to gather information about her. The little girl surprises him by asking if he wants to know when she got her superpower. The girl says her power appeared at age 5, and when the man asks how she knew, she admits she doesn't remember well. She recalls discovering her power after getting excited while watching TV and accidentally breaking a wall, leaving the man stunned. He asks if she named her power, but she explains the Superpower Institution named it the ability to become stronger than a bear. The man privately questions the government's odd naming conventions, but figures the little girl wouldn't have an answer. He asks her if people with superpowers look down on those without them, a hint of insecurity in his smile. The girl looks up, genuinely confused by his question, and simply asks, "Why?" The man has a revelation. For these kids, having a superpower is just a normal personal trait, not a mark of superiority. The girl proudly shows him a structure she built from blocks, calling it their kindergarten. A thought bubble reveals her growing satisfaction with her powers, as she muses that being super might be awesome after all. The narration explains that Muna, who grew up surrounded by superpowers, is now developing a new interest in her own abilities. Muna, now sporting cute bear ears, puffs out her chest with newfound pride. After using all the blocks, Muna offers to get more, but her teacher, Oh Seong, says he will, since they're heavy. To prove him wrong, Muna effortlessly lifts a large box, declaring that it isn't heavy at all. She then impressively hoists 2 large boxes, one in each hand, showing off her strength. Muna wonders why her teacher isn't reacting, while Oh Seong smirks, unconvinced she can handle more. Oh Seong subtly places his hand on a block, challenging her. Muna's eyes sparkle with eager determination, ready to prove her strength. She easily lifts a stack of 4 boxes, asking why she wouldn't be able to, shocking Oh Seong. Provoked by his challenge to build a house quickly, Muna unleashes her power, rapidly assembling the blocks. Oh Seong frantically eggs her on, demanding more, 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 as she builds with incredible speed. Panting and sweating, the exhausted teacher can barely keep up, muttering her defiant phrase back at her. He looks up in absolute awe at the towering block skyscraper they've created together. Another child with a unique beetle-like hairstyle strikes a determined pose. With a sharp yap, Muna demolishes their creation with a single chop, sending blocks flying towards her teacher. A block slams directly into Oh Seong's horrified face. Triumphant, Muna yells yes, as Oh Seong lies defeated on the floor, buried in blocks. Oh Seong recalls his earlier thought that she was just a kid, now wondering what her true superpower is. He questions how her power relates to becoming stronger than a bear, fearing she might claim she can fly next. Gulp. Lying in the rubble, Oh Seong is rendered completely speechless. His inner monologue screams his true desires. He doesn't want to work, he just wants easy money. Muna laughs wholeheartedly, completely oblivious to her teacher's existential crisis. Looking down at her exhausted teacher, Muna cheerfully tells him he seems like a really fun person. As he gazes out the window, Oh Seong begins to think that maybe working at a kindergarten isn't so bad after all. Teacher and student share a moment of quiet contentment, smiling together peacefully. A small, pink-haired girl runs toward Oh Seong, with her arms wide open for a hug. Oh Seong forces a tight-lipped smile, his moment of peace clearly over. Shock! A new challenge appears, leaving a dazed character speechless. A female teacher announces the day's activity, Hideout Greeting Game, to the excited cheers of the children. A simple, happy illustration shows the concept of the Hideout Greetings game. The rules are explained. One team builds a hideout, while the other team creates a stamp card. The objective is to visit each hideout, perform their unique greeting, like dancing, and receive a stamp. The game concludes when a team fills its cute, hand-drawn stamp card. Muna proudly presents Oh Seong with a stamp card, announcing that they are a team. Muna rushes to hug a pink-haired girl named Jongben, and they greet each other enthusiastically. Jongben explains to Oh Seong that their hideout's special greeting is a tight hug. While the other teacher finds the hug greeting cute, Jongben turns to Oh Seong, expectantly waiting for him to participate. Visibly uncomfortable, Oh Seong thinks a hug is a bit much and awkwardly suggests a handshake instead. Oh Seong introduces himself to a hesitant pink-haired girl, offering a handshake as another child stamps a card. Muna and a green-haired girl named Manhwa demonstrate the heart greeting by making heart shapes with their hands. Thinking that forced affection is disrespectful, Oh Seong opts for a formal handshake with Manhwa instead. Muna nervously introduces the wink greeting while posing with a shy, purple-haired girl. The female teacher expresses her relief that the shy girl, Sowon, accepted the greeting. Flustered and red-faced, Sowon clutches her stamp, overwhelmed by the interaction. Wah! The female teacher chases after Sowon as the little girl dashes away in embarrassment. Oh Se-ong has an existential crisis over the game's difficulty, his profile noting he is 27 with no friends. As a defeated Oh Se-ong mumbles about the effort of greeting, Muna blankly wonders what his problem is. Bam Muna bluntly declares that the teacher himself is the problem, leaving Oh Se-ong in shock. A pink-haired boy excitedly asks for a superpower greeting, leaving Oh Se-ong completely baffled. The boy opens a blue thermos, which begins to glow with a strange energy. He joyfully unleashes his power, creating a large, shimmering bubble of water that floats upwards. As the water bubble drifts by, Oh Se-ong realizes they expect him to use powers for a greeting. Imagining himself cheerfully pouring water on the kids, Oh Se-ong internally panics, thinking this could be a problem. Muna blinks in surprise, a small cross mark visible on her forehead. As Muna wonders if he has no powers, Oh Se-ong thinks it's unfair, as he never claimed to have any. The pink-haired girl, Jongbin, smiles and tells Moon, "Ah, it's because she looks funny." Jongbin playfully pinches Muna's cheeks, teasingly telling her to speak more beautifully. Oh Se-ong questions if this is part of the game, while Muna realizes they're actually fighting because Jongbin dislikes that group. Panicking, Oh Se-ong realizes it's a real fight, and yells for someone to call the teacher, forgetting that's him. Tap. Jongbin firmly stops Muna's hand mid-motion. Standing before her hideout, Muna impatiently tells her rivals to greet her with a superpower greeting and get it over with. A voice cuts through Oh Se-ong's dejection, telling him, "That's why you're always alone." The other teacher arrives with a grumpy Sewan, scolding someone named Juyan for her rude tone. Holding a pen, Oh Se-ong smirks confidently and asks if they can handle his superpower. Wah! Muna gasps, her eyes wide with pure, unadulterated excitement. Oh Se-ong performs a simple sleight of hand, making the pen seemingly vanish. Muna is utterly floored by the simple magic trick, stammering in disbelief over the missing pen. The other children are equally stunned and amazed by the teacher's superpower. Watching from the doorway, the female teacher looks on, with a curious and slightly impressed expression. Oh Se-ong smugly thinks that a 7-year-old's powers are nothing compared to a 27-year-old's worldly experience. Holding out her stamp card, Muna promises to show him her real power next time. A boy with glasses apologizes for Muna's mischievous nature as she yells in protest beside him. As Oh Se-ong explains its magic, the pen reappears, prompting a shocked Muna to scream that it's back. Awestruck by the simple trick, the children look at their teacher with newfound admiration. Muna joyfully leans on her teacher, eagerly asking for a superpower greeting with him next time. Stunned into silence, Oh Se-ong is haunted by an image of a bear ripping a paper man in half. As a content Muna stands by him, Oh Se-ong lets out a sigh of weary acceptance. The female teacher asks Oh Se-ong to play with the early arrivals while she handles health checks, and he agrees. His colleague observes that, thanks to Muna's influence, the other children seem much less shy around him. Huh? A torn and tattered stamp card lies abandoned on the floor. Finding the ruined card, Oh Se-ong wonders who would do this, especially after they ended things on a good note. He stares off with an unamused expression, silently processing this new, puzzling development. Muna suggests a game of red light, green light, but Manhwa thinks it would be awkward with just the three of them. A narrative panel reflects on how protagonists in stories always face trials and hardships, both great and small. Oh Se-ong smiles softly to himself, wondering if it's okay to find comfort in seeing his situation as a protagonist's trial. After he calmly agrees to their decision, a shocked Manhwa stares at him with a silent question mark, exclamation mark. The green-haired girl, Manhwa, scolds Muna for her tone, but Muna just grins back playfully. Muna beams, throwing her arms wide with pure, unbridled joy. Oh Se-ong points confidently, challenging the kids to come back with a game they're actually good at. A simple diagram illustrates the game of red light, green light, showing one person as it and another sneaking up from behind. The rules are explained. The person who is it faces a wall and shouts, "Red light, green light," as shown by a girl with pigtails. The explanation continues. If a player touches it, it chases everyone, and the first person caught becomes the next it. The rules conclude, caught players link pinkies, but if a free player breaks the chain, everyone can run away. Muna pumps her fist in the air, excitedly shouting, "Let's start." The game begins in a long hallway, with Muna as it, while Oh Se-ong, So-won, and Manhwa carefully advance. Oh Se-ong smirks, vowing as an adult to teach these children the harshness of society through this game. As a cheerful Muna turns around, Oh Seong makes a mad dash forward with a ridiculously intense expression. Oh Seong stands with Muna, having caught her, and reflects on the harsh reality of being a 27-year-old playing this game. The green-haired girl, Manhwa, raises her hand with a sly expression, thinking, as she prepares to make her move. Oh Seong yells for the others to run away, realizing that as long as he isn't caught, he wins. Monstrous, glowing-eyed bear roars ferociously. The boy with the beetle-like hairstyle charges towards a panicked Oh Seong with incredible speed. The boy's hand slaps firmly onto Oh Seong's back, panting and defeated. Oh Seong has been caught, much to the delight of Muna and the purple-haired girl So-on. Oh Seong laughs with a crazed expression, declaring that surviving is what makes one strong. Now Oh Seong slowly calls out the words as a lone teddy bear lies on the floor behind him. He stumbles backward over the teddy bear, losing his balance in front of a startled So-on. Oh Seong stands silently with the crying, purple-haired So-on, both of them now caught in the game. Muna erupts into a fit of gleeful laughter at her teacher's predicament. As Oh Seong kneels, defeated, Muna runs past him while a distraught So-on stands nearby, with the bubble simply saying, maybe. A curious Muna, with her bare ears visible, leans in to get a closer look at her teacher. A brilliant column of light envelops Muna, who now sports antlers, heralding the Sky Bear's finishing move. With a powerful blast, Muna unleashes her power as So-on shouts green, catching a frantic Oh Seong off guard. Thump. The game ends with Oh Seong, Muna, and So-on all collapsed on the floor in exhaustion. A dazed Oh Seong mutters, green, green, green. What? As the green-haired girl Manhwa cheekily pops up beside him, the purple-haired girl, So-on, stands with her eyes sparkling, looking happy and full of energy. A hand reaches down, touching a brilliant light that shines through the clouds. Muna smugly presents her hand, crackling with energy, to Oh Seong. A sweaty Oh Seong wonders aloud if her superpower is the ability to win the lottery jackpot. Someone watches the exchange with a nervous, blushing expression. A diagram reveals her power isn't just seeing the future, but knowing the probability of rock, paper, scissors outcomes. A narration panel reveals that despite everything, Oh Seong played with Muna until the very end. So-on looks at her teacher with a happy, relieved expression, telling him he seems like a good person. A surprised Oh Seong asks, me? As So-on shyly admits she's wanted to talk to him all along. Fidgeting with her hair, a blushing So-on looks both nervous and happy to finally be talking to him. So-on asks Oh Seong about his torn stamp card, taking him by surprise. She confesses that she used her superpower during nap time, seeing a vision while thinking about her mom. So-on confirms she saw someone in a kindergarten uniform in her vision, as Oh Seong processes this new information. Popping up from behind, Muna startles Oh Seong by asking if that's what happened. Now playing detective, Muna demands to be taken to the, quote, dead victim, while Oh Seong identifies himself as the victim. A flashback reveals Muna's affection began because she thought Oh Seong looked like Landuk from her favorite show. Looking up at her teacher, Muna hopes he will become friends with the other children too. The pink-haired girl announces the kids are all here, while the boy with glasses declares himself Landuk assistant, ready for action. Muna begins the investigation to find the perpetrators, but Oh Seong corrects her term to suspects as the twins wave hello. She declares they must check the children's alibi bali, prompting another correction from her teacher to just alibi. A chart shows that 5 kids went home, while the remaining children, including So-on, had free time. Muna dramatically presents the remaining children as the official suspects in the stamp card incident. A panel introduces the pink-haired twins, Ki Jung-bin, the girl, and her twin brother, Ki Jung-soo. As Jung-bin asks if they are the suspects, Muna proudly declares herself Sky Bear Detective with Oh Seong as her Landuk assistant. A sudden thought pierces the air. Since Moon-ah also went home late, couldn't she be the culprit? Oh Seong freezes, realizing with a start that he hadn't considered Muna as a suspect. Muna quickly denies it, but Jiang-soo wryly points out that no culprit would ever confess. Oh Seong internally frets about exposing the culprit in front of everyone when a voice calls his name. The female teacher suggests the detective game is the children's way of solving the issue and asks him to wrap it up with this group. Muna immediately confronts the teacher, calling her a suspect, but the teacher playfully claims to be an assistant to Detective Landuck. With a comically serious expression, the female teacher vows to collect information for the detective, leaving Oh Seong thinking she's a total pro. Stealing his resolve, Oh Seong decides he'll see this detective game through to the end. He deduces the culprit took the card from a high shelf, ruined it, and left it where he would easily find it. To test his theory, Oh Seong asks the twins, Jongbin and Jung-soo, if they want to try high jumping. He holds up a packet of cookies, offering an extra snack to whoever can jump the highest. To his surprise, both twins leap incredibly high into the air, far above his head. As they land, Oh Seong calmly thinks that he expected as much from them. He ponders if superpower users have superior physical abilities, as the twins jumped so high without using their powers. A new suspect is introduced, Lee Jianho, a quiet 7-year-old boy in a yellow hoodie. Oh Seong playfully pressures Jianho, telling him he'll be a suspect if he doesn't follow instructions. TSK. Jianho shows his annoyance with a subtle click of his tongue. Jongbin chides the others, asking why it's so hard for them to just listen to the detective. Muna steps in, explaining that's just how Jianho is, and that he'll eventually cooperate. Oh, Seong looks confused as Jianho seems to agree with a simple, yeah. With a burst of energy, Jianho leaps high into the air. Stunned, Oh Seong realizes that Jianho almost jumped as high as Muna, landing gracefully on his feet. Oh Seong has a moment of bleak realization. He is the weakest one in the room. The other children watch, with Jongbin looking particularly unimpressed by the proceedings. Oh Seong muses that while the hostile Jianho is the likely culprit, actually finding him out isn't the most important goal here. Jianho stands silently, his expression unreadable under the shadow of his hood. Turning his head, Jianho coolly asks Oh Seong why he is staring at him. A flashback shows Oh Seong is used to children being hostile towards him, but the narration reveals that since coming to this kindergarten, he has slowly been changing. He's still a work in progress, blinking as he processes the current situation. Jianho confronts him with baffling logic. You can look at me, but I can't look at you? Huh? Oh Seong is completely dumbfounded by the child's comeback. The world distorts around him as his brain short-circuits from the sheer audacity. Pao Muna playfully punches her teacher in the back, snapping him out of his shocked state as she laughs. With her hands on her hips, Jongbin strides forward and tells the detective it's time to wrap up the case. She declares she already knows who the culprit is, as Oh Seong winces, thinking he just got a cramp in his neck. Jongbin turns to her twin, asking if he's the culprit, but a flustered Jung-soo quickly denies it. With a dramatic point, Jongbin declares that the culprit must be Lee Jianho. Jongbin confronts Jianho, who denies it. She then asks how they can be sure he isn't lying. Muna confidently vouches for Jianho, stating he wouldn't lie to her, and asks for his confirmation. Flustered and blushing, Jianho is rendered completely speechless by her faith in him. With a jolt, Oh Seong's head snaps back, still reeling from the unexpected drama. Jongbin beams with confidence, posing triumphantly over the unfolding scene. Oh Seong realizes that Jung-soo is about to use his superpower to solve the case. Jung-soo puts a comforting hand on his sister Jongbin's shoulder, smiling warmly. A brilliant, fiery energy erupts from a powerful hand. Jongbin unleashes a wave of colorful energy, standing defensively in front of Jianho. Oh Seong explains that she's using her superpower, empathy, but Jongbin cheekily thinks to herself, that's not it at all. A diagram explains Jongbin's superpower, empathy, which allows her to involuntarily feel the emotions of people around her. The explanation continues, revealing that Jongbin can transfer the emotions she feels to anyone she is in physical contact with. Surrounded by colorful energy, Jongbin stands confidently, ready to demonstrate her unique ability. Jongbin cheekily tells a confused Oh Seong that she'll show him her power since he doesn't know what it is. An off-screen voice instructs Muna to look at Teacher Oh and think about him, to which she enthusiastically agrees. Taking Oh Seong's hand, a smiling Jongbin prepares to transfer the feelings. Muna concentrates intensely as Oh Seong internally questions the strange yang sound effects she's making. Oh Seong's expression is neutral as he begins to feel the transferred emotion. He realizes with a jolt that to Moon, he is simply funny, as images of her laughing fill his mind. Seong points out that Moona is making everyone laugh, but she clarifies she just finds him funny, much to his confusion as Jeongbin cackles beside him. Wiping a tear from her eye, Jeongbin continues to laugh uncontrollably from the transferred emotion. Pointing dramatically, Jeongbin submits Jeonho's feelings towards the detective as evidence in the stamp card case. A wave of pure rage emanates from Jeonho, whose face is hidden in shadow, leaving only his glowing red eyes visible. Overwhelmed by the sudden, intense anger, a terrified Oh Seong wonders why Jeonho is so furious with him. Bristling with fury, Jeonho clenches his jaw and asks incredulously if he's really asking why. A startled Jeongbin grabs Oh Seong's arm, telling him to wait as the situation escalates. Jeonho lunges towards Oh Seong, his eyes blazing with unrestrained anger. Just in time, Jeongsu grabs Jeonho from behind, struggling to hold the furious boy back. Jeongsu scolds Jeonho for trying to attack the detective, threatening that the police will take him away. Oh Seong nervously tells a concerned Jeongbin that he was scared because he's just a regular person, and Jeonho's charge was dangerous. He internally reflects that it's not okay for children to dislike him without at least telling him why they harbor such strong negative feelings as he stands alone in a somber blue light. Clutching her shirt, Jeongbin looks distressed, overwhelmed by the powerful emotions she's channeling. The tearful and worried Jeongbin stands behind the stunned teacher. The thought bubble reveals Jeongbin's motivation. She didn't like that he was getting along with kids she dislikes. Jeongbin stands alone, crying after her true feelings have been exposed. Oh Seong stares wide-eyed, shocked as he processes the entire truth. Moona comforts a crying Jeongbin by patting her head, while another child watches with a smile. Jeongsu explains to Oh Seong that Jeonho's anger stems from overhearing his first-day conversation with the principal. A flashback shows a terrified Jeonho crouching in a dark room, revealing he was kidnapped a year ago because superpower users are valuable. Jeongsu continues, explaining Jeonho misunderstood that Oh Seong was after the kids for money and wanted to protect Moona, whom he likes. He finishes sadly, admitting he tried to explain the misunderstanding, but Jeonho refused to listen. Against a cloudy sky, a question hangs in the air. Could I talk to Jeonho first? Jeonho walks forward with his hands in his pockets, asking where Moona is. The scene shifts to a storage area on the kindergarten grounds. The twins, Jeongbin and Jeongsu, look on with disapproval, asking why someone is at the kindergarten on a weekend. Oh Seong connects the dots. Jeongbin tore the card out of jealousy, while Jeonho's trauma caused him to misjudge his intentions. He has the stark realization that everyone was acting on their own complex issues and that he had completely misjudged them. A horrified Oh Seong wonders if he treated the situation too lightly as the scene transitions to a bright, clear sky. Standing side by side, Oh Seong and Moona gaze out at the school grounds. Looking at Jeonho and the twins, Oh Seong reflects on whether his own carelessness caused the incident. Dressed as a chef, Oh Seong stands proudly while Moona, in a waitress outfit, cheerfully welcomes everyone to the Choiol Sprout restaurant. A close-up shows a delicious-looking bento box filled with carefully prepared food, including rice, sausage, and eggs. As Oh Seong looks on in his chef's uniform, a thought bubble questions what his plan is. On a Saturday, Oh Seong, with Moona's help, gathers Jeonho and Jeongbin at the kindergarten playground. Using the excuse of finishing their detective game, he plays restaurant and serves them food, his ingredient choices reflecting his 7 years of living alone. The narration concludes that delicious food makes people feel good as Jeonho and Jeongbin eat together. Growl. Her stomach rumbles as a hungry Moon admits her hunger, while Oh Seong smirks behind her. Jeongsu casually points out to Oh Seong that Moon can't eat, since she's supposed to be playing the role of the waiter. Moon looks utterly shocked, realizing she's been tricked out of a meal. Jeonho sits silently at a picnic table across from the expectant twins, Jeongbin and Jeongsu. As Oh Seong leans over the table, Jeongbin asks with suspicion what the special menu is. Bam! A hand presents the first course, a salad decorated with hard-boiled eggs and tomatoes. Moona announces the Abi Tiger appetizer is served, prompting a tiger poster on the wall to wonder if it's the main course. Sweating, Oh Seong nervously wonders why he's so anxious about just feeding children. Jung-soo declares the food delicious, but a skeptical Jong-bin wonders what the teacher is plotting with the meal. Ji-yeon-ho sits glumly, poking at his salad without eating a bite. Bam Moon-ah cheerfully announces the next course is soup and bread. Jung-soo kindly encourages Ji-yeon-ho to at least try the soup. Ji-yeon-ho glares, questioning why he should eat food from someone he believes is just trying to make money off them. Bam Moon-ah energetically serves another round of salads. With her cheeks full, Jong-bin scolds Ji-yeon-ho, stating, "It's rude to refuse when someone has put in so much effort." As the twins enjoy their meal, Jung-soo praises the salad while Moon-ah happily thinks being a waiter is fun. Oh Se-young smirks, having anticipated this difficult situation, though he's a little upset his cooking skills aren't being appreciated. He recalls researching this outcome with Moon-ah in advance as his hand clenches a red cloth. With a determined look, Oh Se-young prepares to unveil his main dish over a flaming pan. The new dish is presented with a flourish, its arrival reflected in the eyes of Ji-yeon-ho and Jong-bin. The main course is revealed, a beautifully prepared salmon steak. The twins stare in confusion, asking what a salmon steak is, as they've never seen it before. Pop Oh Se-young is utterly baffled by their unfamiliarity with the dish. Moon-ah drools with delight at the sight of the salmon steak. She clarifies to his stunned Oh Se-young that she thought salmon was his favorite food, not theirs, referencing a bear eating a fish. A large thought bubble wonders if Moon-ah likes boys who eat fish well, while Moon-ah herself thinks that Ji-yeon-ho has lost it and she can't take it anymore. Ji-yeon-ho explains he only came to play with Moon-ah and wouldn't have bothered if he knew everyone else would be there. The twins comment on Ji-yeon-ho's difficult attitude, with Jong-bin complaining that he always criticizes the teacher and does the opposite of what's asked. A slyly smiling Ji-yeon-ho reaches for the salmon steak, seemingly deciding to eat it after all. Jong-bin suddenly grabs a running Moon-ah, stopping her from interfering. Moon-ah is stunned by a sudden vision of fish swimming in a blue void. She realizes with a shock that Ji-yeon-ho doesn't like fish, as the boy looks down in frustration. Blushing furiously, an enraged Ji-yeon-ho glares and shouts Jong-bin's name for exposing him. Oh Se-young senses Ji-yeon-ho is about to use his superpower as a brilliant aura surrounds the boy. Oh Se-young wonders if Ji-yeon-ho's power is fire control, but Jung-soo frantically shouts, "No." The narration reveals Ji-yeon-ho's true ability is transforming into an animal, shown by a close-up of a glowing tiger's eye. His power is to become an apex predator, as a magnificent white tiger materializes in a dark, blue-hued forest. Ji-yeon-ho's hoodie begins to rip as he undergoes a startling transformation. Now a small tiger cub still wearing his hoodie, Ji-yeon-ho roars amidst the chaos on the dinner table. Oh Se-young dryly comments on how intimidating the transformation is, while Jong-bin excitedly pats the tiger cub's head. Moon-ah tries to calm the kids down as Jung-soo sighs at his sister's antics. Smiling through the chaos with a fork stuck to his cheek, Oh Se-young observes what a mess his plan has become. Looking up at the sky, he laments that his trump card failed and reflects on what he was like as a child. A flashback shows a 7-year-old Oh Se-young happily running with a toy plane, announcing his jet is entering the airspace. The young boy continues to run with his toy airplane towards a large, curtain-like object. He prepares to burst through the light blue curtain in front of him. Young Se-young flies through the curtain, pretending it's a waterfall, surprising his father, who is drinking nearby. His father corrects him that it's just a curtain, but the boy insists he listen to his game. A montage of crying and shocked faces flashes by, showing the emotional turmoil he's caused. In the present, Jong-bin playfully pulls on Tiger Ji-yeon-ho's cheeks as the other children watch the chaotic scene. Oh Se-young bows deeply to the children, formally apologizing to his customers. He admits that, due to insufficient research, he failed to prepare a menu they would enjoy, looking over the messy table. Blushing with humility, Oh Se-young looks down, embarrassed by his failure to connect with the children. A blushing Jong-bin looks on with a warm, fuzzy feeling as the conflict resolves. A bewildered Ji-yeon-ho, sporting tiger ears, questions what is happening as a hand rests on his shoulder. The scene briefly settles on a warmly lit candle, setting a calm and gentle mood. In a brief fantasy, Ji-yeon-ho appears dressed in a formal suit and bow tie, sitting politely. Back in reality, a flustered Ji-yeon-ho blushes deeply, overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events. A hand offers a piece of meat on a fork, as Jong-bin apologizes to a startled Ji-yeon-ho for trying to frame him. Jong-bin insists that Ji-yeon-ho should also apologize to Teacher Oh for his behavior. A shocked Jianho realizes that earning money is a normal part of a teacher's job. Muna sarcastically comments on how nice it must be to earn money playing with them, prompting a confused "what?" from Oh Se-young. A distressed Jianho, showing small fangs, begins to stammer out an explanation for his actions. Blushing, Jianho holds the offered food and shyly admits that he likes all kinds of meat. Seeing the misunderstanding clear up, Oh Se-young beams with a warm, relieved smile. Muna throws her arms wide, celebrating the successful reconciliation with a huge, joyful grin. Muna and Oh Se-young high-five, with Muna proudly declaring it's all thanks to her. Jongbin runs to her brother, Jeong-soo, who expresses his relief that the tense situation is finally over. On the playground, the kids playfully bicker while a smiling Oh Se-young watches them, happy to see them getting along. The children, now in yellow uniforms, energetically play tag across the school grounds. Jianho and Jongbin bump into each other and argue mid-chase, refusing to give way. Watching from afar, Oh Se-young reflects on how great it is that everyone now plays together so nicely. He sighs, looking exhausted and admitting to himself that his stamina is no match for the kids. A black-haired man agrees that keeping up is impossible, while Oh Se-young wishes he were 20 years younger. The man watches a small white dog, philosophizing that youthful energy is a privilege he once had too. He continues his musings, stating a teacher's job is to create joyful memories while guiding children. To everyone's surprise, the little white dog speaks, adding that a teacher is a companion sharing that time. Oh Se-young is stunned, realizing with a jolt that he's being lectured by the man. Startled by the talking dog, Oh Se-young blurts out, "Stop it!" He struggles to process the situation, wondering how a dog can even speak before pausing on another thought. The dog introduces herself as Danby, the vice principal's 17-year-old companion and a kindergarten old-timer. Oh Se-young marvels at the dog's age, and Danby explains she comes to the kindergarten with her owner. Danby reveals her ability to speak comes from borrowing the words of the children who play there. A profile card officially introduces Danby, age 17, whose ability is speaking human language. Oh Se-young laments being the only one without a superpower, and Danby chides him for acting like a child. Muna interrupts Oh Se-young's rest, announcing a new game and gathering the others. Jianho and Jongbin stare forward stoically, wearing boxy, homemade-looking space helmets. Muna announces a space travel game, casting herself as the spaceship and the others as explorers. When Muna asks who he was talking to, Oh Se-young admits he was speaking with Danby the dog. Muna dismisses the idea of a talking dog, but is stumped when Oh Se-young questions her carrying 2 kids in a box. Oh Se-young smirks, defeated by the inescapable logic of a child's imagination. With boundless enthusiasm, Muna invites Oh Se-young and Danby to join their space travel game. The scene transitions to the silent, starry expanse of outer space, setting the stage for their game. A soft, ethereal light fills the frame, signaling their imaginative journey has begun. Dressed in full astronaut suits, Jianho and Jongbin explore an alien planet, wondering if they've found life. Oh Se-young stands before a cute rocket ship, welcoming the 2 small astronauts to his world. He introduces himself as the alien Seongmas, as Danby peeks out from behind him. Pow! The rocket ship character suddenly yells, "Cut!" bringing the scene to a halt. Back in reality, Muna complains that Oh Se-young isn't acting enough like an alien. Oh Se-young looks utterly lost, wondering what an alien is even supposed to act like. Holding up Danby with her fur tied in tufts, Oh Se-young introduces his companion Danbymus, only to be cut off again. Hurt, Muna protests that he just tied the cute dog's hair and isn't taking the game seriously. Oh Se-young tries again with his own hair tied up, introducing himself with a longer name, prompting an exasperated shout from below. Muna shouts that simply changing clothes doesn't make him an alien. Continuing her lecture, Muna yells that speaking differently isn't enough, while Danby the dog thinks he should try changing his mindset. Oh Se-young, wearing a ridiculous costume, laments that to change anymore, he'd literally have to be reborn. As a proud Muna sparkles, a flustered Oh Se-young wonders what to say and accuses her of enjoying the criticism. The vice principal, holding Danby, wisely observes that it's normal for kids to reject play if they can't immerse themselves. Watching from afar, a green-haired girl asks when he's coming, as another child notes, "Teacher O is talking to Danby again," while Muna praises his compassion. Laughing loudly, Muna asks her teacher why he's talking to a dog that can't speak. Jeonho and Jongbin, still wearing their space helmets, blankly agree with her point. Holding Danby, the vice principal announces they'll try again as the little dog looks up inquisitively. The children's faces are shown in a series of close-ups, each with a serious, focused expression. Oh Seong presents himself with theatrical flair, preparing for his next performance. Speaking through Danby, Oh Seong introduces a 44-year-old character whose hobby is watching spaceships. He continues the act, claiming the character is cute and affectionate, and asks if he can join their journey. Bam! The reveal shows Oh Seong holding Danby over his face like a mask, looking surprised himself. A laughing Jongbin and a stoic Jeonho stare at the strange sight of Oh Seong with Danby as a mask and a face drawn on his shirt. The green-haired girl and Jeong-soo burst into laughter, delighted by the adorable absurdity of the costume. Muna joyfully welcomes Danby Musong to their space crew, leaving the real Oh Seong speechless. The full, strange costume is revealed, with Danby on his head and a drawn face on his shirt, as Oh Seong looks utterly defeated. A boy with glasses and Muna join in, introducing themselves with their own alien names, Seojunmus and Juyeonmus. Oh Seong smiles, watching them play, and noting that his strange idea seems to be working after all. Danby sits alone, sadly reflecting on her shorter lifespan compared to humans. Looking at the Choyeoksis at kindergarten, Danby worries that the children will be left with sad memories if they become too attached to her. A caption declares that he cannot join the children's space travel as Oh Seong and Danby stand apart. Muna approaches Oh Seong, directly asking why he can't join their game. Staring at the little white dog, Muna suddenly asks if Danby just spoke. Muna stunningly claims she's been hiding a superpower that allows her to speak human language. Danby looks up with a question mark as a speech bubble clarifies that Muna has misunderstood, and that she, the dog, can actually speak. Muna dismisses the claim with a skeptical, "Come on." A startled Oh Seong asks Muna if she was the one who was just speaking. Muna accuses Oh Seong of speaking the whole time, while the vice principal smugly declares he was right, and another child feels tricked. The kids plead with a hurt Oh Seong, telling him to come back as the cute Danby Museong, not himself. Muna dismisses the act as no fun, to Danby's shock, before reluctantly agreeing to something. Suddenly, Muna's face lights up with a brilliant, satisfied smile. Muna happily runs forward, presenting the costumed Danbymus, as Danby follows along, barking. The imaginative journey begins as Danby rides a smiling pink and white rocket through a starry sky. The scene shifts to an office where a stern-looking man with red eyes and scars on his face watches intently. The pink-haired Zhang Ben asks the stern man if he knows the kids. Muna leaps into the air with excitement, confirming that he does. A narration box introduces the Sprout class of Choyeol Sprout Kindergarten, composed of 7-year-old children, including the twins. The narration explains the class is about to embark on a 2-night, 3-day field trip. The field trip is revealed to be a Deus preparation class, a form of safety education. A dramatic explanation shows that a natural disaster called Black Lightning can cause ability users' superpowers to go out of control. This unexplained phenomenon is called Deus Ex Machina, likened to the intervention of a god in the mortal world. A light-haired teacher reviews safety protocols with the class for when a Deus warning sounds. Zhang Ben is shocked by a new idea, while the purple-haired girl wonders aloud if Muna is a genius. As a determined Muna formulates a plan, Oh Seong watches and soberly thinks her reaction is too slow. The light-haired teacher holds up paper cutouts, explaining the danger of being exposed to Deus and losing control of one's abilities. The teacher suggests they practice controlling their abilities, but Jung-soo and the green-haired girl look on, thinking how scary it would be. A blonde-haired girl reassures a nervous Jung-soo, promising to stay by his side, which flusters him as Oh Seong watches in confusion. The light-haired teacher claps, announcing that the class will now divide into 2 groups for the lesson. The class is split into groups, with a shocked green-haired girl ending up in Teacher O's group. The remaining children form another group, leaving a wide-eyed Jung-soo looking distraught at the separation. In a moment of high drama, a blonde girl named Manhwa and Jiangsu call out to each other tearfully. Zhongbin glances over her shoulder, completely baffled by the over-the-top farewell scene. Checking on her teacher's dazed expression, Jongbin asks if he's okay, but he nervously starts the lesson with a girl named Sewon. A blushing Sewon explains her power, revealing she can see the future, though it sometimes happens on its own. Sewon proudly claims she can see the future as much as she naps, a fact that Teacher Oh finds incredible. Teacher Oh asks whose turn is next, and an eager girl with dark, tied-up hair rushes to join Sewon. Suddenly, Sewon's eyes glow a faint purple as her power activates, catching her off guard. In a vision of her friends praising her abilities, Sewon's primary concern is what's for lunch today. Jongbin looks back, noticing Teacher Oh's startled expression with a flash of concern. As the curious children wonder what's going on, a nervous Teacher Oh tells himself to focus. Teacher Oh explains to the group that the children's abilities are heavily influenced by their personal changes. An explanation reveals Sewon's future sight is limited to her own viewpoint, while Jongbin must act as a conduit for her emotion-based power. Sewon and Jongbin look up with determined and hopeful expressions, ready for the challenge. Moona boldly declares her superpower is to become stronger than Teacher Oh, who tells her not to provoke him. The green-haired girl, Yeonhwa, listens with a look of surprise at Moona's audacious claim. Oh Seong thoughtfully speculates that Yeonhwa's power might be controlling fire, and Jongbin confirms it's true. A profile card officially introduces the nervous green-haired girl as Lee Yeonhwa, whose ability is Ignition. A brilliant sphere of fire materializes between two hands, demonstrating her powerful ability. Oh Seong intuits that Yeonhwa is scared of her own power, which has an aggressive nature that doesn't fit her personality. The light-haired teacher looks on in stunned silence as Yeonhwa unleashes a massive burst of flame. Enveloped in fire, a confident and smiling Yeonhwa declares, "I can do it." Two boys from the other group note that her personality changes when she uses her power, which the boy with the forehead cross confirms. A powerful torrent of roaring, reddish-orange flame fills the panel. An observer realizes that despite her confident expression, Yeonhwa is merely pretending to be okay. Yeonhwa stands resolutely before a towering inferno that she has summoned. Bam! Oh Seong stumbles back in alarm, crying out Yeonhwa's name as her power surges. Overwhelmed by the fiery energy, Oh Seong collapses, sweating and shuddering in apparent pain. Moona leaps into the air, narrowly dodging a wave of uncontrolled fire. Flames whip past dangerously, showing the fiery power has spiraled out of control. AAA. The other children scream in panic at the chaotic scene, while Oh Seong looks on with grave concern. Moona calmly places a hand on Yeonhwa's shoulder, reassuring her that no one was hurt and telling her to breathe. Oh Seong sternly approaches the girls, demanding to know what Cheon Moona thinks she is doing. Pointing out a scorch mark, he warns that even with strong bodies, accidents can still happen. Dangerous things like this are for adults like me to handle, he declares, trying to reassert his authority. A boy in a gray hood suddenly yells, interrupting the teacher's lecture. Moona leans in and whispers a strange boo, leaving Oh Seong completely bewildered. Boom! Moona suddenly lets out a tremendous shout, catching Teacher Oh completely by surprise. Hey, hey! She continues her powerful sonic yell, her expression one of immense effort. The outburst ends with Moona bursting into tears, sobbing that her teacher is stupid. As Yeonhwa comforts her, Oh Seong realizes Moona was trying to help, understanding the fear of losing control. Reaching out his hand, Oh Seong apologizes, clarifying that he was just worried, not trying to scold her. Tear-eyed, Moona chides him for being slow with his expressions, while Yeonhwa smiles. Oh Seong reports the incident to the light-haired teacher, who carefully takes notes on a clipboard. Jang-soo checks on Yeonhwa, who confirms she's okay and says that Moona's crying actually helped calm her down. The blonde girl apologizes to Jang-soo for not being by his side, but he thinks her feelings alone are enough. Her expression softens into a warm, gentle smile, touched by his unspoken thoughts. A blushing Jang-soo looks back at her, clearly happy and moved by their connection. The boy with glasses and a potted plant pushes them up his nose, announcing he has a question for Teacher Oh. The boy with glasses, Seojin, smugly offers Teacher Oh some love advice as a fellow man and adult. Oh Seong, A 27-year-old with zero dating experience is utterly baffled by the child's offer. In a daydream, Manhwa and Jeongsu hold hands while she excitedly plans to eat ice cream and see animals at the theme park. Seojin sadly wishes for a sweet moment of his own. Fearing that elementary school will soon separate him from his crush, the girl with a cross on her forehead, Juyeon, cheerfully holds up paper cutouts. Oh Seong realizes Seojun likes Juyeon but feels helpless, as a voice reassures him not to push himself. Seojun explains the difficulty of the situation, prompting a flustered Oh Seong to insist he can handle a 7-year-old's love life. Jujeon and Jeonho observe Seojun from afar, with Jujeon thinking his blank expression is unusual for someone in Jeonho's group. Teacher Oh reflects that while Seojun doesn't seem to fit in with the others, he respects the boy's effort. Clutching his small potted plant, Seojun blushes with renewed determination. Seojun panics internally, remembering that his crush is still a closely guarded secret. Seojun places his hand on his teacher's, a silent gesture of trust in their new mission. Nearby, a flock of ducks quacks loudly near a fence. The scene shifts to a large Ferris wheel, reminding the audience of Oh Seong's age. Despite his inexperience, Oh Seong resolves to use the internet to find a solution for Seojun's problem. The narration explains he's enlisted the kindergarten's fashionista, Sowon, who seems surprised to be asked for help. A determined Sowon blushes and agrees to take on the fashion challenge. A brief memory shows the other group of children, including Juyeon and Jeonho, with their teacher. Another flashback shows Yeonhwa, Jeongsu, and his twin enjoying their time at the park. Sowon is shown modeling a stylish, modern outfit with a determined look. Sowon's fashion advice is revealed. Glasses, a casual outfit, and a jacket with a bag to complete the look. Dressed in his new outfit, a nervous Seojun shyly asks if he looks okay. The plan hits a snag as Danby leaves a censored pile of poop on the ground. Oh Seong laughs, amused by something Juyeon said, while a primping Seojun and an annoyed Sowon look on. As one of Juyeon's siblings laughs, the other asks if Teacher Oh's poop looks the same, horrifying the teacher into shouting, "Of course not!" Part 2 of the plan, Creating Opportunities, begins as the group heads to a dragon-themed ride. Oh Seong watches with determination as the newly styled Seojun walks toward the ride. The teacher realizes Jeonho's group of 3 makes it hard for Seojun to ask Jeon to ride with him. In a stroke of genius, Oh Seong cheerfully asks Jeonho to be his ride partner to free up a seat. The plan backfires spectacularly as Jeonho stares back in utter disgust and asks, "What, dude?" Laughing, Juyeon wipes a tear from her eye, confirming she was only teasing. Clunk. The ride lurches forward, beginning its slow journey along the track. One of the boys in Juyeon's group complains that the ride is boring and slower than his running speed. Juyeon yells at the mechanical dragon to try harder, forcing a panicked Oh Seong to shout for her to stop. While Juyeon laughs uncontrollably, Seojun sits beside her with a completely deadpan expression. Meanwhile, the light-haired teacher from the other group casually snaps a picture with her phone. The final stage of the plan begins. Part 3. Making an impression before a dinosaur exhibit. As the teacher explains the need to find common ground, the next phase of the plan is set in motion. After a moment of silence, Juyeon breaks the ice by turning to Seojun and asking, "Poop?" The question sends Juyeon into a fit of messy, uproarious laughter. Juyeon joyfully declares her love for poop, leaving Teacher Oh to wonder what on earth is so funny about it. Seizing his moment, Seojun brightly agrees that he likes poop too, stunning Oh Seong. Juyeon seems unimpressed by his confession, causing the observer to doubt if the plan will work. Juyeon happily runs off, asking if flowers also poop, with Seojun and an exasperated Teacher Oh chasing after her. Watching from a park bench, Oh Seong is struck with a silent, worried thought. The scene briefly settles on a serene field of blooming pink flowers. Juyeon reflects on how awkward the situation is, thinking she can't even confess, and that there's been enough talk about poop. A pair of hands reaches down, touching the dirt in the flower bed. As Juyeon watches, Seojun kneels down and begins to gently tend to the plants, creating a quiet, magical moment. A flustered Oh Seong stares in stunned silence as Seojun earnestly asks for advice on how to confess. Teacher Oh suggests confessing at the upcoming Fall Flower Festival to set the mood, an idea Seojun happily accepts. Standing beside a nervous Seojun holding his plant, Oh Seong curiously asks what the boy's superpower is. With a serious expression, Seojun begins to explain what his superpower is. A beautiful, glowing pink rose unfurls its petals, in a brilliant display of life. A profile card for Seojin reveals his ability is growth, which allows him to rapidly grow living things for a short time. As Juyeon watches, Seojin proudly reveals that he made the flowers bloom in the shape of a heart just for her. Seojin imagines a future where he and Juyeon go to the same school, share their daily lives, and grow up together. In his daydream, a blushing and overjoyed Seojin pictures the sweet confession. A smiling Juyeon promises they will come back again next year, as they stand together under a beautiful sunset sky. The imagined romantic moment between Seojin and Juyeon continues under the warm glow of the setting sun. Snap reality returns as one of Juyeon's siblings holds up a wilted flower, announcing that the flowers have fallen asleep. As the magical moment fades, Seojin turns and apologizes to a crouching Oh Seong. Oh Seong gently pats Seojin's head, trying to console him by suggesting that perhaps it ended well this way. Oh Seong thoughtfully reflects that just as Seojin's power is temporary, so too might be the fleeting feelings of the moment. As Juyeon and her sibling playfully pull on a flustered Seojin, the narration notes that they still have plenty of time ahead of them. The scene shifts to the theme park at night, as Teacher Oh reflects on a long day and the effort it took to get the children to sleep. Oh Seong and the light-haired teacher, Teacher Han, relax with drinks, with her commenting on how nice the accommodations are while he thinks about Seojin. Oh Seong smirks, feeling more teacher-like, but Teacher Han interrupts, stating she's realized the true level of a superpowered child. The light-haired Teacher Han looks on with a gentle, knowing smile. Holding their drinks under the night sky, Teacher Han turns to Oh Seong and asks if he has a moment. A slightly nervous Oh Seong agrees and asks her, "What is the matter?" Teacher Han looks at him seriously and asks a pointed question. Does he hate superpower users? A flashback shows faceless figures protesting against psychics, illustrating the societal hate that superpower users face. The narration explains that even after a month, Teacher Han couldn't fully trust Oh Seong, who looks uneasy in the background. Recalling when Oh Seong got angry at Manhwa, Teacher Han admits she couldn't tell if it was from genuine concern or prejudice against superpowered children. Back in the present, a bewildered Oh Seong looks at her and flatly states that he doesn't hate them. Teacher Han insists he think about it more seriously, but he repeats that he simply doesn't like or dislike them. A new problem arises as a worried-looking Yeonhye appears in her pajamas, clearly distressed about something. Teacher Han and Oh Seong approach Yeonhwa, asking if she's okay, but she nervously denies needing the bathroom. Yeonhwa explains that she woke up to find that Gilseo, the child sleeping next to her, had disappeared. As they walk, Teacher Han asks where Gilseo went, and Oh Seong explains this happens sometimes, catching her off guard. Oh Seong reveals Gilseo's superpower is teleportation, illustrated by a chibi version of her phasing through a starry outline. Teacher Han explains she did not expect Gilseo to teleport during sleep, as Oh Seong prepares to call park staff. Teacher Han quickly asks to look for her themselves first, revealing that most accommodations rejected them because they were superpower users. As Teacher Han voices her fear of the incident becoming a bigger issue, Oh Seong looks concerned, unsure how to respond. Oh Seong hesitates, at a loss for words, as the scene shifts to the dark, rustling trees of the park. Teacher Han anxiously pleads with him to let them search for just 30 minutes before they call for outside help. Back in the room, Manhwa wakes up, calling for Yeonhwa, who responds that she is awake. Peeking out the door, a worried Manhwa learns that Gilseo has disappeared. Manhwa urgently shakes a sleeping Jeonho awake, telling him it's an emergency, and he groggily acknowledges her. With a burst of heroic energy, Manhwa points to the sky and declares that their time to shine has finally come. The scene introduces Mr. Kim, a diligent park patrolman making his nightly rounds with a flashlight. Alerted by a sound, Mr. Kim looks over as Oh Seong and Teacher Han hide behind a bush, with Oh Seong covering his mouth in alarm. Teacher Han consults a map, noting Gilseo's teleportation range is small, while a nervous Oh Seong mutters about monsters wandering around. Oh Seong gets on his hands and knees to search the Flower Path Park walking trail, hoping for a quick find. Elsewhere, Manhwa asks Jeonho if he can smell Gilseo, but he complains that the strong scent of the flowers is overpowering his senses. A stick whips through the air with a powerful swish as the children continue their search. Oh Seong asks Teacher Han if she's found her, but she tiredly shakes her head no. With intense focus, Oh Se-young prepares to move to the next location, jabbing a stick into the ground for emphasis. As Mr. Kim patrols nearby, Oh Se-young desperately tries to stifle a gasp, while Teacher Han urges him to stay quiet. Teacher Han waits anxiously near the zoo entrance in the dead of night. Stopping suddenly, she cries out, prompting a concerned Oh Se-young to ask what's wrong. A single foot steps into a bright circle of light. The light reveals a gift shop shelf filled with novelty headbands and souvenirs. The flashlight beam continues, illuminating a pyramid of teddy bear plushies. The searchers are startled by a large, roaring polar bear display, with a sign that says, "Look at this." Unaware, Mr. Kim finishes his rounds, declaring the area clear, noted as a passionate but incompetent patrolman. Oh Se-young examines a map, realizing Gil-seo could have teleported to the tiger cage at the zoo. Inside the enclosure, a large tiger sleeps peacefully under the moonlight. Unbelievably, the missing child, Gil-seo, sits calmly just a few feet away from the sleeping beast. Moona and Jeonho look on in horror, with Moona exclaiming that Gil-seo is alone with the tiger. Jeonho spots the teachers, Oh Se-young and Teacher Han, frantically waving from behind the enclosure's glass. Unaware of the danger, Gil-seo turns and waves back cheerfully at her teacher. Trapped behind the bars, Teacher Han recalls her own power, being, quote, flexible like rubber. She desperately tries to squeeze through the bars, crying out for help from any adults. As Oh Se-young runs to get help, he mutters that Teacher Han's ability is useless in this situation. The sudden movement catches the tiger's attention, and its eyes snap open, staring right at Teacher Han. The tiger begins to rise, its shadow falling over the oblivious Gil-seo. The massive tiger takes a deliberate step forward. With a powerful leap, the tiger lunges forward. A hand swiftly grabs Gil-seo's collar, pulling the child back from the danger. Teacher Han scoops up Gil-seo and yells for everyone to run. A terrifying headline flashes through Teacher Han's mind as she desperately pleads for this not to happen. Holding the calm child, a baffled Teacher Han wonders why Gil-seo doesn't understand the mortal danger they're in. Taking charge, Moona grabs a stunned Jeonho and shouts for the kids to run, to which he weakly agrees. The group flees, with Teacher Han carrying Gil-seo and Moona dragging Jeonho behind her. Teacher Han panics, realizing they're running in the wrong direction. They stop dead in their tracks, having run right back to the tiger, which now blocks their path. Moona stares up at the massive tiger standing before them. A close-up shows the tiger's intimidating, focused gaze. Unafraid, Moona points at Jeonho's tiger-themed outfit, declaring he's a tiger too and calling him cute. The real tiger's expression shifts to one of wide-eyed confusion. A flustered Jeonho is shown in his cute tiger hoodie. In a moment of pure fantasy, the tiger blushes, completely charmed by the display. Moona calmly pats the tiger while calling it cute, as the large cat affectionately licks a fallen Jeonho. Teacher Han watches the bizarre, peaceful scene in utter disbelief, still holding Gil-seo. Oh Se-young returns, dragging Mr. Kim behind him as he shouts that he's brought staff. The children, now safely together, recount the event, with Gil-seo asking Jeonho why he came. The imposing figure of Mr. Kim, the park patrolman, looms over the two worried teachers. In a dark flashback, a smiling girl taunts a younger Teacher Han, asking if her body is like rubber. The memory continues as the taunt echoes, growing more menacing as the memory darkens. Clutching her chest, Teacher Han thinks that she knows deep down that superpower users are the same as everyone else. Back in the present, a remorseful Teacher Han apologizes to Oh Se-young. Oh Se-young steps forward, taking the blame and asking Mr. Kim to see it as the fault of two inexperienced teachers. To their surprise, Mr. Kim smiles warmly and reassures them he had no intention of blaming them for being superpower users. Mr. Kim drops a bombshell, cheerfully revealing that his wife is a superpower user too, leaving the teachers stunned. Later, Moona asks Mr. Kim if his large size is a superpower. While he offers the children candy, Teacher Han addresses Teacher Oh, remarking that she seems to be encountering many people connected to superpowers these days. Mr. Kim reflects on his childhood, when his father would earnestly plead with others not to blame incidents on superpower users, a phrase that came out reflexively for him. A startled Teacher Han turns to Oh Se-young, asking him what he was trying to say earlier. Oh Se-young explains that dealing with that sort of thing is annoying, which Teacher Han quietly acknowledges. Teacher Han explains that after starting work, her curiosity led her to search for research papers on superpower users, but human rights protections limited what was available. She lets out a hearty, joyful laugh. Teacher Han playfully pats a stoic Oh Se-young, teasingly asking who looks up research papers just because they're curious, causing him to complain that it hurts. With a pained expression, Oh Se-young insists that her pats really do hurt. An uncomfortable Oh Se-young explains to Mr. Kim that one of the children went into the tiger cage and managed to get out. Oh Se-young realizes they can't continue their outdoor class, and Teacher Han agrees they'll need to contact the parents through the kindergarten. Teacher Han frets that the tiger cage incident has become a big issue, and then abruptly asks Oh Se-young if she will be fired, which completely shocks him. Oh Se-young sweats nervously, at a complete loss for words. A flashback shows a happy Moona. As the narration notes, she was deeply looking forward to the outdoor activity. An informational graphic provides details on commissioning series and advertises recruitment for various scanlation roles. A special thanks page recognizes the support of patrons at various tiers. The scene shifts to an exterior shot of the kindergarten building at night, under a cloudy sky. As yellow energy flashes outside a window, the narration ominously states that if yesterday's outdoor class hadn't ended early, this wouldn't have happened. Clatter. A small wooden stool is knocked over forcefully. Standing amid signs of a struggle, a shocked Oh Se-young realizes that if not for the canceled class, this disaster wouldn't have occurred. Moona sits pouting in her bear-themed hoodie. A man and woman worry about the still upset Moona, with the woman asking her daughter if she's still very sad about the canceled class. Moona sadly explains that she packed all the kids' snacks and prepared toys to play with at the beach. The family discusses their day, with one person saying they saw ducks that looked exactly like Teacher. Oh, and another excitedly agreeing. Someone tries to cheer up the gloomy Moon, teasing that the rides must not have been fast enough for her. Moona's father reacts with disbelief and excitement, shouting that she saw a tiger up close, something even he has never done. Her mother asks if she was scared, but Moona says it was cute, leading her mother to remark on how different she is. Moona's mother explains to her husband that the kindergarten decided to have a sleepover instead of canceling, causing Moona to leap for joy on the couch. Cradling a happy Moona? Her mother asks what the new Teacher O is like. Back at the kindergarten, Moona stands with her arms wide open for a hug from Teacher O. Moona declares that Teacher O is a funny person, adding that he looks funny today too, much to his bewilderment. Teacher Han smiles pleasantly as she handles calls, contacting the children's guardians. With a burst of energy, Oh Se-young raises his arm and calls for everyone's attention. He announces the start of the Make Your Own Shop game as the children cheer wildly. The game involves role-playing as shop owners and customers, with one child humorously offering 2 billion won for a single star. Moona suggests that she and Jianho play married couple, prompting both Jianho and Oh Se-young to shout their objections. Moona laughs at their funny reaction, while a blushing Jianho nervously thinks about the married couple suggestion. Sitting alone, Oh Se-young reflects that although he has gotten closer to the children, he still has to play with them. With a grimace, he internally groans that playing is annoying. Moona presents Oh Se-young with play money, announcing they've withdrawn all their funds. He realizes he's on the shop team because it's less annoying. Putting on a strained smile, Oh Se-young cheerfully welcomes everyone to the Se-young Superpower Kindergarten shop. Finding his shop a bore, the children drag a limp Oh Se-young away to join them. The green-haired girl, Manhwa, silently turns and walks away from the group. Moona notices her friend leaving and calls out, "Manhwa?" As the other children discuss which shops to visit, Oh Se-young stands by, looking slightly uneasy. Oh Se-young whips around in sudden shock, shouting, "What?" He stares down at Moona, who holds her play money and explains that there's no such shop. A small, hand-drawn sign sits on a table, marking a new shop. A pink-haired girl explains that another child, So-won, wrote future notes for everyone before falling asleep from exhaustion, telling them to find their own. Oh Se-young unfolds a note, thinking that it doesn't show the future one wants. He stares at the note in confusion, noticing a wet spot and wondering what the water is. Blub, blub, blub. A sudden geyser of water erupts, vaguely forming a skull-like shape. Gasp! A pink-haired girl stares in shock as Oh Se-young stands drenched and utterly baffled in a puddle. A frantic voice apologizes, explaining that Gilseo accidentally teleported the water she was controlling onto the teacher, much to Teacher Han's amusement. As Teacher Hung laughs, a drenched Oh Seong wrings out his clothes, wondering if making fun of him is her only purpose here. Teacher Han's laughter subsides as she notices a black armband on Oh Seong's arm and curiously asks about it. He evasively calls it an old injury and quickly changes the subject, reminding her to check her own future note, an idea she eagerly accepts. Teacher Han reads her cryptic note, which warns her to be careful not to get hurt when fighting with everyone. Oh Seong teasingly asks if she plans to fight everyone, even him, but she insists she's never fought with children. Just then, Teacher Han announces the Sky Bear arm wrestling shop, making Oh Seong realize what kind of fighting the note meant. He grimly predicts the outcome, certain he'll challenge 7-year-old Moona, only to lose miserably as always. The fated arm wrestling match begins, with Oh Seong and Moona locking hands across a small table. With a comically intense and demonic expression, Oh Seong suggests asking Jeonho to referee their match. As predicted, the pattern repeats. Oh Seong lies defeated on the floor as a triumphant Moona calls for the next challenger. Moona cheerfully spots the green-haired Yeonhwa and invites her to come arm wrestle at their shop. Yeonhwa coolly glances back, declining because it's obvious she'd lose and she sees no point in trying. Nearby, Teacher Han watches with concern as a defeated Oh Seong sits on the floor, nursing his wrist. Oh Seong reflects that Moona acts normally with the other kids, but seems to treat him differently. Teacher Han runs over to Yeonhwa, excitedly announcing that she'll help with her fireworks shop. Yeonhwa bluntly says she doesn't need help, but Teacher Han cheerfully insists since she has nothing else to do. With her patience wearing thin, Yeonhwa firmly repeats, "I said it's fine." A hurt Teacher Han turns to Oh Seong, asking if she was the one who fought with the kids, to which he awkwardly agrees. Twirling her hair, Teacher Han guiltily wonders if she might have been the one in the wrong. She asks Oh Seong if her behavior is like a superpower, and he explains it's about conveying one's heart through touch. With a sudden, shocked gasp, Teacher Han has a moment of profound realization. She firmly grabs Oh Seong's hand and gives him a sincere, heartfelt apology. Feeling surprisingly refreshed, Teacher Han asks if this is what conveying heart means, but Oh Seong deadpans that it isn't, and he's still waiting for his apology. She stares in disbelief, asking if this is also wrong, while he lies defeated, thinking about his age. Deciding this approach isn't her style, Teacher Han confidently tells the ignored Oh Seong not to dismiss her. Oh Seong sits up, pondering whether Moona is actually the type of child who makes mistakes with others. Undeterred Moona quietly follows after Yeonhwa as she walks away. Yeonhwa stops and glances back, slightly startled to see Moona behind her. Holding up some toys, a beaming Moona enthusiastically suggests they combine their shops. She proposes the Fireworks Sky Bear Arm Wrestling Play Shop, a name an observer finds alarmingly violent. Moona tries to convince a doubtful Yeonhwa, insisting they'll succeed if they work together. She beams with absolute certainty, punctuating her pitch with a confident, "Right." Taking matters into her own hands, Moona grabs Yeonhwa's arm to pull her along. Yeonhwa finally snaps, shouting, "I said I'm fine," and knocking a toy from Moona's grasp. She turns away sharply, her expression a mask of frustrated resolve. Yeonhwa accuses Moona of always getting her way, leaving Moona shocked and denying it ever happened. Moona earnestly explains she was just being considerate, trying to cheer Yeonhwa up, but the explanation falls flat. With a burst of fiery energy, Yeonhwa shouts, "That's what I don't like!" A stunned Moona, now wearing bear ears, confronts her friend, demanding to know why she dislikes it. The girls' conflict is imagined as two giant, glowing monsters about to clash, as a worried onlooker wonders if they can be stopped. A single unlit firecracker clatters to the floor, marking the tense silence. Oh Seong watches as a fiery aura crackles between Moona and Yeonhwa, who are locked in a heated standoff. Realizing the other kids have never seen them fight, he listens as a worried classmate asks what they should do. He dryly suggests calling the police, shocking the pink-haired girl before admitting he's joking, causing a boy to collapse in relief. The abandoned Sky Bear Arm Wrestling Shop sign lies forgotten on the floor. With a sudden cry of, "Now!" Oh Seong finally leaps into action. The two girls remain locked in a tense, unresolved stare-down. With a flourish, a comically serious Oh Seong announces that he will be the referee for this fight. He explains the rules. No superpowers or physical force, only friendly conversations to understand each other's thoughts. The match will consist of 3 conversations, with the referee awarding points to the more persuasive argument. The first to 2 points wins. Oh Sa-young dramatically declares this new sport, conversation boxing, and signals for the match to begin. The scene shifts to show Moona and Yoonghwa sitting opposite each other, a tense silence hanging between them. In an imagined boxing ring, the 2 girls face off with gloves on, ready for a serious bout. Moona begins her side of the story, explaining she finished her own shop first and then energetically tried to help Yeonhwa with hers. Both girls shout their arguments, with Yeonhwa insisting she never needed help, as a caption reminds them that good children shouldn't fight. Oh Sa-young awards the first point to Lee Yeonhwa, ruling that one shouldn't force good intentions on a friend, making the score 1-0. In the makeshift boxing ring, Yeonhwa and Moona sit at opposite corners, each flanked by a supportive, pink-haired friend. With the pink-haired girl beside her, Moona thinks to herself that it's okay, and she can just build up the atmosphere since it's only round 1. Moona internally plots to deliver a merciless final blow and make Yeonhwa apologize, prompting Oh Sa-young to sternly remind her to have a friendly conversation. The concerned pink-haired girl just hopes they can become friends again, but Oh Sa-young tells her she doesn't need to force herself to go along with it. Ding! A red bell rings, signaling the start of round 2. Taking the offensive, Yeonhwa points at Moona and begins to state her case. Moona fires back, accusing Yeonhwa of not even listening when she suggested they combine their shops. Yeonhwa lands a counterpoint, shouting that she said that was fine too, catching Moona off guard. With growing frustration, Yeonhwa insists that she had been saying it was fine from the beginning. Yeonhwa tearfully accuses Moona of ignoring everything she said and just pushing her own ideas. A close-up shows Yeonhwa shouting with frustrated tears in her eyes. Moona stands her ground, her expression equally determined and upset. Watching the intense argument, the pink-haired girl nervously holds a white flag, wondering if she should just surrender. Yeonhwa demands to know if Moona listened at all, and Moona lunges forward, shouting that she did. Verbally knocked to the ground, Moona begins to explain her side of another incident. In a sweet flashback, Moona happily plays with her dolls, feeding the Sky Bear doll while the Landa coughs. Yeonhwa screams that there was no need to throw the Sky Bear doll during their argument, as a visual shows it being flung at her. Moona thinks about the odd doll flashback as Oh Se-young tells Yeonhwa to treasure her friend's belongings, awarding a point to Moona and tying the score 1-1. Now it's Yeonhwa who is verbally knocked back, shocked by the turn of events. Yeonhwa shouts that none of this would have happened if Moon hadn't bothered her, but Moon furiously asks why she kept saying, "It's fine." Their faces inches apart. Yeonhwa asks what's wrong with her response, while Moona yells that she doesn't know, only that Yeonhwa is acting differently. The standoff intensifies as Yeonhwa glares, getting even closer to a defiant Moona. Oh Se-young jerks back in his seat, startled by the escalating tension. A shadow falls over Moona's face as her bare ears appear and her eyes glow, signaling the use of her superpower. Hic. As Moona starts to hiccup, a panicked Oh Se-young leaps toward her, shouting her name. His intervention is too late. Moona bursts into tears, and Oh Se-young cries out in dismay. Oh Se-young looks down at his arm in confusion, completely baffled by what just happened. Yeonhwa watches her crying friend with a look of stunned concern. Through her tears, Moona apologizes for being so stubborn. As the discarded Sky Bear doll lies on the floor, she explains that she just wanted to help Yeonhwa. Yeonhwa turns away slightly, quietly saying that's not what this is about. In a flashback to the previous night, Yeonhwa recalls how Moona was determined to go out and look for the missing Gilseo. Yeonhwa explains that she felt a desperate need to stop her friend from doing something so worrying. Staring at her friend, Yeonhwa begins to explain her reasoning, calling her a fake. She clarifies her harsh words, stating that a Moona who does reckless things that worry adults is a fake Sky Bear. Moona is utterly shocked, admitting she had no idea Yeonhwa felt that way, while a tiny version of herself is seen running off on an adventure. Yeonhwa confesses through her own tears that she was so ashamed and sorry for her thoughts that she couldn't face Moona normally. Sobbing, Yeonhwa admits that she hates making Moona sad and that she's upset they aren't getting along like they used to. Overwhelmed with emotion, Moona cries out Yeonhwa's name, tears streaming down her face. Wah! The two friends finally embrace in a tearful hug, reconciling their feelings. Watching them, The pink-haired girl also cries, apologizing for her own harsh thoughts during their fight. As Oh Seong stands flustered, the pink-haired girl, Jeongben, urges him to hurry up and declare a winner. Waving a white flag, Oh Seong declares victory for Moon-ah, Yeonhwa, and friendship itself, as Jeongben's empathy ability is revealed. Oh Seong's gaze falls upon the small, unlit firecracker lying on the floor. The scene transitions to the kindergarten grounds under a starry night sky. The setting is confirmed to be the kindergarten rooftop. Teacher Han greets Oh Seong on the roof, telling him he did well and that they should finish the overnight program together. On the rooftop, Moona holds the red firecracker ball and asks Yeonhwa if she just has to throw it high. With a powerful heave, Moona hurls the ball into the sky, as Yeonhwa confirms with a "Yep." Oh Seong watches a tiny speck glitter in the distance, remarking that she threw it much too far. Moona and Yeonhwa excitedly explain to a confused Oh Seong how the firecracker ball is supposed to work. Oh Seong realizes that's why the firecracker was a dud, musing that Yeonhwa's ignition ability making fireworks is logically, but his thought is cut short as a sudden startling realization dawns on him. Teacher Han advises a surprised Oh Seong that it's difficult to understand superpowers with logic alone. She confesses that even as a superpower user herself, she finds the children's abilities amazing and puzzling. Oh Seong recalls that his own childhood superpower was called the rubber ability, imagining a familiar straw-hatted figure. Teacher Han continues, explaining that her ability was re-evaluated by the institution as she grew older. She concludes that superpowers simply do what they want, leaving Oh Seong speechless. A man with brown hair asks if the change is due to perception differences with age, catching Oh Seong's attention. The narration explains that superpowers are a world of imagination, questioning the outcome if the children's abilities had no limits. A happy montage shows the various children of the kindergarten enjoying themselves. A close-up captures Moona's wide, joyful laugh. As a magnificent, fiery spectacle erupts in the sky, Oh Seong looks on, realizing this is the most dazzling moment. The scene shifts to a bright, clear day, with a beautiful blue sky. The story moves to a grocery store, where Oh Seong grumbles about having to shop to save money. He just wants to shop quickly and get home to a quiet weekend away from people. Whoosh! He turns to see Moona, gleefully speeding by with a shopping cart. He smiles, deciding that ordering delivery as a reward for his hard work would be a much better choice. While pushing her cart, Moona suddenly senses Teacher O's presence somewhere in the store. In a panic, Oh Seong tries to flee, desperate to avoid having his weekend ruined by an encounter. Kya, it's too late, as Moona joyfully tackles him from behind, ruining his escape. A defeated Oh Seong gives a stoic Moona a piggyback ride through the store. Moona excitedly says she felt his energy, while he tells her to get down, a 20,001 sign visible nearby. As Moona peeks over his head, Oh Seong asks why she's there alone without her parents. Moona claims her mom is right beside her, but she turns in shock when she finds her mother has vanished. She stares at the empty space where her mother was, shouting in alarm that she's not there. Oh my, Moona decides they need to go to the Lost Child Center, prompting Oh Seong to point out that she's the lost child. Oh Seong gives himself a weary pep talk, determined to quickly find Moona's mother and finally go home. Resigned to his fate, he feels utterly defeated and realizes there's only one method left. He looks at a store display with dread, as Moona confirms his unspoken, terrible suspicion. An adventurous sky bear in a scarf and goggles announces their new quest, to find the legendary sword. In an imagined scene, Moona takes the stage at a fan event, deploying her sky-cutting fist to a cheering crowd as Oh Seong watches, thinking he really doesn't need to be there. The adoring doodle-like fans comment that Oh Seong must be the land duck assistant and remark on the resemblance. Oh Seong looks completely unamused, as an off-screen voice introduces him as the land duck who can soar. The crowd turns on him, calling him terrible, and demanding that he apologize to Land Duck. He furiously denies having anything to do with this, but a mischievous Moona insists he did it on purpose. An employee named Kim tempts Oh Seong with a Land Duck mask, but he steels himself to endure it. In a surreal thought bubble, a cartoon Land Duck version of him looks annoyed, finding the whole situation irritating. Moona weaves a dramatic tale of Land Duck being wounded, while protecting Sky Bear, and he listens with a blank stare. Oh Seong bluntly states he doesn't like Landuk because he's weak, causing a nearby employee to feel bad for him. Moona loudly cuts him off, shouting that telling him more would be a spoiler. In a fantasy sequence, a goggle-wearing Sky Bear tells Landuk it's time to head out, but Landuk just thinks it's all annoying. A horrified Oh Seong realizes with dread what Moona is about to propose. Moona excitedly announces their quest to find the legendary sword, while a sketched-out Oh Seong mentally screams in protest. The narration explains that finding the legendary sword requires gathering various fantasy items first. The required items are revealed: red meat from the southern island, Sleeping Moon's reflection mirror, and the ice cloak from the glacier continent. A hand crackles with a burst of bright yellow energy, signaling a surge of power or a dramatic idea. A young boy on Oh Seong's shoulders, with Moona on his back, cheerfully suggests the legendary sword is at the Lost Child Protection Center. Moona frantically shakes a dizzy Oh Seong, asking what he's talking about and insisting the Lost Child Center exists on this continent. A thought bubble muses that if superpowers are a world of imagination and images, then nothing strange can happen, as a giant crying Sky Bear doll demands they find the legendary sword, looming over a tiny Oh Seong. Back in reality, Moona demands Oh Seong's attention, and he frantically announces they've arrived at the location of the red meat from the southern island. A female store employee in a red apron looks on with a completely blank expression. Adopting a serious persona, Moona questions the word protection, her expression turning dark and intense. A stressed Oh Seong realizes he's been cast as the guardian of the blood-stained red meat. The store employee's face darkens with determination, as she thinks that she cannot simply hand over the meat. The employee's thought continues, challenging them to prove their strength against capitalism as she gestures towards a package of meat priced at 180,000 won. Utterly defeated, Oh Seong resorts to online shopping as a sparkling Moona points to the laptop, declaring they've found the red meat. Slap Oh Seong's hand slams the laptop shut, ending their online quest. A cute flashback shows a chibi Oh Seong finding a hand mirror and calling it the Sleeping Moon's reflection mirror. Holding up a simple hand mirror, Oh Seong questions the find, while a disappointed Moona thinks his effort is half-hearted. Oh Sima gasps, realizing with dawning horror what a small puddle on the floor is about to become in their game. Gazing at the puddle, he dramatically narrates feeling the weight of the cold air from sealed continents gathering on his shoulders. As the puddle glows, he feels the chilling sensation of absolute zero approaching. Wearing packs of frozen dumplings like a cape, Oh Seong triumphantly declares it to be the ice cloak from the glacier continent. As he shouts, a nearby shopper laughs, thinking she should buy one too and noting the store's aggressive promotion. A blushing Oh Seong wishes for death as onlookers tease him, saying they have to buy the ice cloak now. The scene shifts to a woman pointing at a map, explaining that as winter approaches, the continent's cold is gathering, a warning issued by the Superpower Disaster Prevention Center. A narrator explains that when the three fantasy tools are gathered, people's wishes combine to make the legendary weapon appear, as Moona glows with power. Oh Seong recoils in disbelief as a massive glowing sword materializes, wondering if superpowers are truly so unrestricted. The shot reveals the legendary sword is actually a toy in a brightly colored box. The employee, Kim, presents the toy to Oh Seong, who yells in disbelief as Moona brandishes the sword, having thought it was real. Holding the vibrating toy, Moona remarks on the power befitting a legendary weapon. The narration confirms the rumor that the sword goes out of control when wielded by someone unworthy. As the sword hums with energy, Oh Seong anxiously feels that something is truly about to happen. He desperately wonders how he can resolve the situation without ruining Moona's playtime. The panicked store employee, Kim, shouts at Oh Seong, calling him Landuk, and asking what he's doing. Kim urges a confused Oh Seong to step up and intervene. A close-up shows Oh Seong's hand tightly gripping a piece of cloth. An off-screen voice, presumably Moona's, shouts a warning that the Landuk assistant is also in danger. Resolved, Oh Seong steps forward to confront Moona, vowing to try and stop her. Moona berates Oh Seong for being too weak to even beat a kid, demanding he immerse himself in the roleplay. The crowd of onlookers, including other children, reacts to the dramatic confrontation with a mix of anger and excitement. A defeated Oh Seong now wears the Landuk mask, looking completely mortified. The toy sword glows with an intense, powerful light, Having fully given in, Oh Sayong runs with a gleeful Muna on his back, the duck mask still on his face. A microphone is set up with a clink. The legendary toy sword is dramatically planted on a display stand. Employee Kim takes the stage, enthusiastically pitching the sword for 14,991, revealing his goal to be the top employee of the month. As Muna asks to buy a sword, Oh Seong wishes for death, overhearing shoppers comment on the hard-working, dumpling-turned-sword salesman. Sighing about his unpaid weekend overtime, Oh Sayong walks past a mascot as Muna asks it for a promotional sword. When a bystander asks for help, Oh Seong explains he's not an employee, only to jokingly claim, "Yes, I'm Mom," as Muna calls out. A woman with light brown hair appears, laughing and apologizing for watching them play so well together. In a dreamy sky, she explains that since meeting teacher Oh Muna, has decided she wants to be a teacher too. Muna's mother invites a startled Oh Seong to dinner, but he hastily declines, thinking they've already talked for 3 hours. As she leaves with her mother, Muna cheerfully waves goodbye, telling teacher Oh not to get lost next time. Oh Seong gives a weak wave, bidding farewell to his weekend before correcting himself to say goodbye to Muna. He touches his neck, a slight blush on his face, feeling a moment of unexpected warmth. Musing under a cloudy sky, he considers his weekend pay received, mentally tallying his weekday and weekend hours. Thud his foot steps forward, marking a transition to a new scene. Suddenly, he's in a desolate, rocky area wearing a cleaning apron and gloves, wondering where on earth he is. The scene shifts to a colorful, paint-splattered window, implying a return to the kindergarten. Mop cleans the paint-splattered tiles, confirming he's back at work. Sighing, Oh Seong stands with his mop, wondering if he cleaned up the mess for nothing. Nearby, 2 children marvel at giant bubbles, with the pink-haired boy Jiangsu cheering. Oh Seong grimly predicts they'll burst. Pop! The bubbles burst, splattering paint everywhere as Oh Seong watches in silence. A man in a suit with red eyes and a stern expression observes, thinking it must be hard work. Oh Seong calmly warns the man not to get his scary face too close to the children, causing him to recoil. Gazing at empty planters, he thinks to himself that he should have listened to the principal. A sudden, intense red ring of energy appears before him, signaling something is wrong. He whirls around in alarm, utterly confused by what's happening around him. As the world turns red and chaotic, Oh Seong panics, screaming in terror at the unfolding events. A large building block teeters precariously on the edge of a brick wall. From his perspective, a toy truck falls and shatters in a dark, ominous void. Disoriented, he finds himself back in the desolate landscape, still holding his mop and asking, huh? He stands in a dark, unfamiliar alley, realizing he was just at the kindergarten moments ago. The image of the falling, shattering toy truck repeats with chilling clarity. A cartoon depicts a person getting hit by a truck and being reborn as a dragon in a fantasy world. In a shadowy space, Oh Seong angrily demands to know what the 2 figures behind him are talking about regarding a status window. 2 boys, one in a hoodie and one in traditional blue garb, stand beside him, wondering how things got so strange. The boy in the hoodie asks what a status window is, causing Oh Seong to react with frantic shock. Leading the 2 boys, Oh Seong asks if they know where they are, and one confirms they came from the kindergarten. He freezes, staring in horror at a tall, slender, horned shadow figure looming in a nearby doorway. Sweating profusely, Oh Seong is speechless as one of the boys asks why he stopped walking. The menacing, horned creature stands ready to pounce from the shadows. He instinctively grabs both children and bolts, the boy in the hoodie crying out in alarm. As he flees, his mind races in panic, wondering what that terrifying thing was. From the mysterious dark space, panicked screams echo as they desperately try to escape. After running, he pants in exhaustion, annoyed that the boys don't seem nearly as scared as he is. He explains his realization. This place is a giant maze, which means there must be an exit. The boy in the hoodie confidently states that in a maze, you can always escape by only going right. Oh Seong is stunned by the simple, yet potentially brilliant, suggestion. The boy in the hoodie also reacts with shock, as if realizing the implication of his own words. In a comedic moment, Oh Seong collapses, while the 2 boys appear to argue over the maze strategy. The boy in blue calmly points to the right, leaving a dazed Oh Seong completely bewildered. Following the boys' direction, they venture down another dark stone corridor of the maze. Their path ends at a dead end, leaving the 3 of them staring in dismay. Oh Se-young's eyes widen in dawning horror as he recognizes something about their surroundings. A memory flashes of a messy, run-down room as he wonders if this is his childhood home. The boy in the hoodie suggests breaking the wall, prompting Oh Se-young to question his rash, Moona-like thinking. Blushing, the boy in the hoodie stammers that being compared to Moona isn't so bad, much to Oh Se-young's confusion. His mind flashes back to a poor and shabby childhood, a space devoid of happy memories, where even regular meals couldn't fill an empty heart. As the two boys run through a freshly made hole in the wall, Oh Se-young sarcastically muses that there wasn't a wall there before. A man who looks identical to Oh Se-young appears, sternly asking the boys why they are acting this way, shocking Jianho. From the man's perspective, the horned shadow monster is seen running down a dark corridor. Panicked, the man grabs both boys and flees, shouting that it's a monster while Jianho argues about its power level. As they race through the corridors, a frantic voice shouts, "To the right!" The desperate shout continues, urging them to go right. Ignoring the previous advice, the boy in the hoodie runs ahead, insisting they go left, as Oh Se-young pleads for him to listen. The boy in the hoodie whirls around defiantly, shouting that Oh Se-young isn't even a real teacher, leaving him stunned. Oh Se-young anxiously asks if the monster is gone, just as Gilseo runs ahead, with Jianho shouting out his name. With dawning horror, Oh Se-young realizes this must mean the monster went after Jianho instead. A new, terrifyingly gaunt monster with huge, hollow eyes appears from the shadows. Oh Se-young spins around in terror, wondering what new horror this is. He pants heavily, overwhelmed by fear and exhaustion. Flashes of crying and laughing children appear as he wonders about their superpowers. A sudden idea strikes Oh Se-young as he runs, shouting for Gilseo, remembering his superpower is teleportation. Gilseo reacts with a determined expression, a spark of realization in his eyes. Bong. As Oh Se-young runs, a magical effect appears beside him. He stops dead in his tracks, startled by the sudden event. Gilseo appears, hands clasped and eyes closed in concentration, emanating a spiky aura. Suddenly, Oh Se-young finds himself teleported and falling through a vast purple sky. Looking down in absolute terror, he lets out a desperate scream. From a safe ledge above, Gilseo calmly watches him fall, wondering how he should catch him. Bong Oh Se-young lands safely, now carrying Gilseo, utterly baffled by the turn of events. Holding the boy, Oh Se-young is deeply confused, questioning how Gilseo teleported again when it's supposed to be a once-a-day ability. He stands with Gilseo before a massive new hole smashed through a brick wall. Jianho appears from the hole, angrily yelling about being ignored, before happily declaring that they found the exit thanks to Gilseo. Peeking through the new opening, Jianho exclaims they're almost there. Through the hole, a brightly lit hall is visible, leading to a glowing treasure chest on a pedestal. A shadowy figure smashes into the ground before them, roaring that it's here too. The boy, Jianho, is thrown to the ground, looking stunned and disoriented by the impact. A massive, roaring black bear with glowing eyes blocks their path, challenging them to a fight. His mind reeling, Oh Se-young tries to process the completely nonsensical situation. The two boys, Gilseo and Jianho, stand exhausted and sweating from the ordeal. Oh Se-young's mind connects the messy room, the monsters, and the final bear monster. He slams his fist on the ground in a moment of clarity. Staring at his open palm, he has a sudden, shocking realization. His hand is covered in the familiar colorful paint splatters from the kindergarten. Back in his cleaning apron, Oh Se-young checks the time, realizing it must be past 3 o'clock on Saturday. He jolts in panic, shouting that it's almost 4 o'clock. The scene flashes back to the roaring sky bear, preparing its finishing move. A pair of hands, emanating a powerful aura, are clasped together, ready to strike. A small, determined Moona is shown ending the game on her own terms. The illusionary maze walls crumble away, revealing the kindergarten classroom. The stern-faced man reveals the principal used her power to create illusions just for Oh Se-young, all at Gilseo's request. The explanation continues. Gilseo used his teleportation to arrange blocks into a maze. It's revealed the principal and vice principal played the monsters, with Moona as the final bear boss. The vice principal gets uncomfortably close to a startled Oh Se-young, calling his name. The vice principal apologizes, explaining that he caused the incident by granting Gilseo's first ever earnest request, while Oh Se-young mentally tells him to back off. As the principal drags the vice principal away, saying his actions weren't okay, Oh Sayong is left utterly speechless. Oh Sayong asks Gilseo if he had fun, noting it was unusual for him to suggest such a game. Muna, in her bear hoodie, explains that she's scared to teleport herself, but is good at teleporting objects. Oh, Sayong realizes the principal and vice principal must have misunderstood Gilseo's intentions to give him something, all because Gilseo can't speak. Whack! A foot kicks Oh Sayong's leg, and he yelps in pain. A boy in a hoodie explains he came to meet Gilseo, deliver something, and talk, as Oh Sayong recoils in shock. The boy in the light blue hoodie stands with a serious, determined expression. Jianho, the boy in the gray hoodie, blushes with an embarrassed and flustered expression. Bam! An enraged Jianho lunges forward. The children excitedly urge Muna to teleport them home to watch Sky Bear, waving a cheerful goodbye to Teacher O. A flashback shows a girl's failed attempts to give Oh Sayong a letter via teleportation, concluding with a promise to practice more. Holding a letter, a blushing Oh Sayong wonders why the children are suddenly acting so differently toward him. In the Sprout class, a teacher with short, light hair announces they are preparing for the graduation ceremony. The teacher explains to the class that they will present the future self they dream of becoming. The teacher explains their dreams can be anything from a hero or fairy to a world traveler. Oh Sayong asks a green-haired girl named Yeonhwa about her future dreams, but she seems uncertain. Yeonhwa explains she wants a job that utilizes her superpower to help people with a whoosh swish. He suggests becoming a firefighter, but Yeonhwa worries that her power, which creates fire, would be counterproductive. Oh Sayong explains the concept of a backfire to fight larger fires, suggesting her power has many potential uses. Inspired Yeonhwa realizes she can use her fire power to stop fires, thinking it's an incredibly cool idea. Yeonhwa excitedly declares she'll be a firefighter, while Oh Sayong mentally notes the grueling exams required, but decides not to crush her spirit. A child playfully hangs on his back, asking about his future self, but he dismisses the question, saying it's just for the kids. Two children call him an old man for being 28, leaving Oh Sayong emotionally crushed. One of the children brightly invites him to come to elementary school with them. Oh Sayong smiles, wistfully thinking that starting over from elementary school to live a comfortable life sounds nice. The child is confused, reminding him that adults can't go to elementary school, then gets mad that he agreed. The child clarifies her invitation, suggesting he come to elementary school as a teacher instead. Jianho gives a thumbs up, agreeing it would be great if they could all go to school together. Jianho's smile is wide and strained, appearing forced and unnatural. Oh Sayong worriedly asks if he's sick, but a flustered Jianho shouts that he's perfectly fine. Other children eagerly agree they want him to come too, but he tells them the decision is only meaningful if they make it themselves. Two pink-haired children get excited over their suggested future jobs, a swimming pool owner and a doll shop owner. A dark-haired child cheekily suggests becoming a villain who defeats heroes, and Oh Sayong agrees it suits them. After hearing the children's dreams, Oh Sayong makes a quiet resolve to stop being so anxious. The scene transitions, showing a peaceful sky with fluffy clouds. The light-haired teacher approaches Oh Sayong, looking startled to see him. She asks if he's okay due to his poor complexion, but he blames it on fatigue, prompting her to bluntly mention his already bad appearance. Jianho excitedly asks, "What? What?" While Oh Sayong, looking confused, tells him he hasn't said anything yet. Oh Sayong stands alone on a stage, facing a closed red curtain with a box in his hands. Later that night, he lies in bed, staring at the bright screen of his phone. Oh Sayong informs the teachers he's going to the mart for snacks, as the lighting battery is dead, preventing outdoor activities. The vice principal assures the other teacher that the principal isn't coming, while internally grumbling that he's still the principal too. A dark-haired child runs up and calls out to Teacher O. Oh Sayong stares in wide-eyed shock, exclaiming, "That much?" The child worries that today is Teacher O's limit, but he waves his hand, insisting he's still alive. The dark-haired child looks down and pouts in disappointment. Oh Sayong asks Muna why she's pouting too, and she frets about what might happen if he truly doesn't know. Two girls present snacks to another, who denies ever asking for them, wondering if she dreamt it. Jungsu and Yeonhwa happily promise to help each other in the future, using their respective superpowers. Standing at a podium, Oh Se-young yawns and calls for everyone to gather. Several pink-haired children peek around a corner, eagerly asking what's happening. The children's various future dreams are showcased, including a firefighter, an artist, an explorer, and a masked hero. Oh Se-young cheerfully presents a red sky bear cape to a very unamused Muna. He blushingly admits he watched the entire sky bear animation, explaining the cape is what allows the hero to fly. Thwack. Muna aggressively snatches the cape out of his hands. Oh Se-young sits stunned as Muna stands over him, the discarded cape lying on the floor. While he stares in confusion, Muna furiously yells at him for not noticing that she's clearly upset. Exasperated, Oh Se-young rubs his head, telling her to just take the cape and wondering why she's being so moody again. He explains that becoming a teacher is hard, but a determined Muna insists she will just study more to make it happen. Oh Se-young condescendingly lists the difficult requirements, asking why he'd go through college again and telling her she doesn't understand anything. He loses his temper, shouting out why he would ever want to be her teacher again. Instantly regretting his outburst, he covers his mouth and tries to take back what he said. Thud. Muna gently places her hand over his, silencing him with her touch. He looks on, wide-eyed and completely speechless. Muna looks up at him, her face flushed and her eyes filling with tears of heartbreak. Seeing her cry sends a sharp jolt of shock and regret through him. The brown-haired boy reappears, telling Oh Se-young that this kind of behavior is just like him. The boy explains he was only trying to be nice because Muna told him to, admitting he sees Oh Se-young as a good adult. Oh Se-young looks down, his face shadowed as he reflects on the situation. Looking up, he realizes Muna has already disappeared down the empty hallway. He drops to his knees, clutching his head in anguish. The scene shifts as Oh Se-young informs two female teachers that he's going to the mart since the lighting battery is dead, warning them to keep the children inside. A teacher with blue hair notes that autumn has passed, and they are now waiting for the first snow of winter. As winter draws near, a national alert warns that the continent's cold is building, creating the perfect conditions for a disaster. The briefing concludes with a specific warning about the possibility of a small-scale Deus occurrence. A diagram explains that Deus is a natural disaster where black lightning strikes, causing the powers of any ability user it hits to go haywire. Staring at his phone with a look of dread, Oh Se-young utters Muna's name. Against a turbulent purple sky, he desperately shouts her name into the air.